Welcome back to another episode of Pragmatic Optimists. I'm once again joined by Ria and Masuma Khan, who are talking about Masuma's experience being taken into detention at a routine ICE check-in that she had been going to for years while she was navigating the legal green card petition process, and then was taken into detention in California City, 2.5 hours away from her family, with her daughter and husband working frantically to get her out of horrific conditions, denied medication. We've had a whole conversation about this that you can check out that should almost certainly be the video right under this on our playlist. But Ria and Masuma, what I want to turn to now is just how much it took, because I know there was so much advocacy that had to be done to get your mom out of California City, despite the fact that she has no criminal records, had never missed an ICE check-in, had no reason to be taken into detention, is in her 60s, and was suffering negative health consequences throughout her time in detention. What was the process like? What did it take for you to get your mom to be able to be sitting next to you again in this moment?
Thank you, Rachel. Some of the things that I did that I think is that are very important is, first, do your research, about your attorney that you're hiring or you have hired, because, my mom did have an attorney and, she wasn't really getting much done. And there are things that she could have done to prevent this from happening, but she didn't. So, not to throw her under the bus or anything, but again, do your due diligence, do your research, make sure you have an attorney that's not going to take advantage of your situation, because that does happen. And, one of the things I did was hire other attorneys, and I was able to work with South Asian Network and Public Counsel, and they were able to take on her habeas petition pro bono. So that really helped out. And they have more resources. Nonprofits have more resources. They have more people that can work on these cases. And especially when it's pro bono, they don't have any financial incentives to kind of keep the persons in there in detention. So that was one of the things that I did. Other things were, I contacted our reps, Senator Adam Schiff's office, Congresswoman Judy Chu's office, as well as Senator Alex Padilla's office. And then I reached out to, news networks, and her story was picked up immediately by ABC, and a couple weeks later it was picked up by NBC. And also in the meantime, I emailed a lot of people, different organizations, people I thought that might be able to help, and also just a lot of DMs. I think I had 400 or 500 DMs to, content creators and people who have large viewership. And, I did get some great response, and, that was just completely vital to this whole thing. You have a lot of advocates, a lot of activists that are really passionate about this, that use their platforms to advocate for her. And that also made other people call the reps, which, and then that also got them to check in to make sure that she was getting her medication and see whatever else they can do. And also push her case into the oversight committee, so that, they can kind of keep an eye on what's going on, especially because it's, CoreCivic, California City, it's a private facility. And once her habeas was filed, we had a judge that was fair, that delivered her the justice that she deserved, and released her immediately after her hearing. And we still have some difficulties. They didn't want to release her that day, but the attorneys, the women, these 3 women that are just completely badass attorneys, that they were not willing to back down. They were very firm, and I was very firm. And so that all helps. And one of the things I know is people are afraid to speak. People are afraid to make those calls or, post on social media. But that's how they keep you afraid all the time. That's how people get lost and people get disappeared because they feel that there's nobody to advocate for them, nobody that cares. And these family members and loved ones feel abandoned as well, feeling like they have no hope. And so it's really important to advocate for them. It's really important to speak up.
And I think that's one of the things that I really want to highlight for people who are watching is just how much effort it has taken the Khan family to get someone who should have never been in immigration detention out of immigration detention, and the kinds of monumental effort that it has taken, the connections, the politicians, everything else. We are at a time where, again, so many people do not feel comfortable doing that, even if they have legal status in the United States. But we also have so many people who have been snatched off the streets, put into immigration detention, who do not have close family members or connections, who have stable immigration status, who can speak without putting themselves at immense amounts of risk. And it is particularly important that when there are calls to action, that those are uplifted and that they are universal, that we're thinking about access to habeas claims and donating to the kinds of nonprofits and direct action networks that are doing that kind of work for people who do not have access to the same kinds of resources. But I think that it's just particularly important for people to understand that you can be so well situated, doing everything right, and still end up in this situation. I want to you mentioned core civic, and that's something that Tiara and I are always interested in, is the use of private prisons in immigration detention. These for-profit facilities, core civic and the GEO group, are in charge. I should look these stats up. They are running a huge percentage of immigration detention in the United States right now. And there have been, since the Biden administration and earlier, there have been ongoing lawsuits about the use of labor in these facilities where, Rhea, I know you mentioned in our last episode, people can only wear clothes that they're buying from a commissary that is always sold out. There have been so many reports coming out of facilities of people who are having to work for $1 a day and then have to pay $5 to use the phone systems to get in touch with their families on the outside. And the litigation, I'll finish my thought, the litigation that was ongoing against GEO Group, not Core Civic, was about violation of minimum wage laws in the Pacific Northwest. I believe it was in Washington, because just something that we must remember always, immigration detention is civil detention, and the exemptions that we can argue whether they should or should not exist. Y'all know that I think they should not exist. The exemptions that allow for prison labor in the United States to be paid not at all or far below minimum wage come from a carve out in the 13th Amendment that allows slavery as a punishment for a crime. And the people who are being detained in these civil facilities have not been convicted of a crime that led to their detention in that facility, even when they have a criminal record of any kind. And so there's this huge ongoing constitutional violation in terms of the use of labor in these detention facilities at all. And Rhea, I know that you're very plugged into things like this, so I don't want to just give that diatribe. If there's anything you'd like to add about your experience working specifically with these kind of for-profit facilities, I would be super interested in hearing them.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things was like how much money we had to keep putting into her commissary account and her telephone account. By the time she got out, I think I put in almost $400 in her account, and all the food was like really bad, like no nutritional value, canned food. So a lot of them decide to buy food from the commissary, and even then, like everything is overpriced. Not a lot of very good choices, like cup of noodles, ramen, things like that, and chips. So they're still not getting the nutrition that they need to be getting. My mom was told to buy certain medications from the commissary, which they could have just provided. We do pay taxes, and a lot of it is going to these private prisons. And that's really important to understand too. These facilities should not be run by private companies. This should not be a business. Human beings should not be a business. And these facilities, these companies have a lot of influence in the cities where they are they are situated. And
talking about it.
They pay these cities a lot of money for certain things. Like, for example, one of the things was, they were paying them to throw a Halloween party, and that was just completely unnecessary, so it's a lot, it's not just like the commissary account, the phone account, like everything is contracted out to certain vendors, and that were also not just Core Civic. It was gettingout.com and Connect Network, and even the food was contracted from certain companies. And so it's all about being a business on top of what they're probably already making.
Yeah. And thank you so much for that. I think I'm going to wrap us up, but if there's anything else that you'd like to leave our viewers with about your experience, about things that you'd like to see from them, I will have one of my patented little connections and pulling on some threads here, but I want to make sure that I give you all time to close out if there's anything else that you think it's important that people take with them.
Yeah, I think it's really important to show up to these city council meetings where these facilities are located and really advocate for these places to be shut down. That's one of the very most important things. And then also call your reps. They do have some powers to, help close these facilities down, even though they're federal. One of the things that we experienced was we were kind of, given the runaround from the Attorney General's office to the governor's office, saying they couldn't do anything. And I think they should try a little harder to do something, And that, you see this in other cities, other states where state leaders, city leaders, like the mayor of Chicago, they're trying to do a lot more than they are here. And that's been very disappointing. But also just be compassionate, advocate as much as you can, try to understand the system. We've gotten a lot of criticism saying, she's lying, she deserves it, she shouldn't be here. And it's really important to be kind.
Thank you so much for that. And I think that your direction to city council is one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I included in my wrap up as well, is that we've seen it in the city of Portland. We're seeing it some in Broadview, a suburb of Chicago. There are municipal zoning requirements. There are ways that municipalities can make it inhospitable for ICE to have detention facilities in their kind of borders. A state can do the same thing. In Illinois, we have the Trust Act, or the Illinois Way Forward Act, I think, is actually the one that prevents counties from leasing their beds to ICE to use for immigration detention. And that has made it so that there is no real immigration detention facility in the state of Illinois. And that's something that can be replicated in blue states throughout the country. I think it's also really important for people to remember that the state of California had a referendum on the use of prison labor in California several years ago that failed. And turning up for issues like that, because when you were talking about your mom being sent 2.5 hours away, one of the things that I really wanted to make sure to highlight for people is that this is a common feature of the immigration and criminal legal system of our country, whether Donald Trump is in charge, whether Democrats are in charge. And it's something that we have to keep pushing on for a variety of reasons. The first is that it is set up to be exploited by Donald Trump, who is expanding these disgusting systems to extend to people like Masuma, who you would never historically think of as someone who's a candidate who's going to be snatched off the street and put into immigration detention. But those systems existing at all and existing for a very long time, the kind of erosion of due process rights in immigration court, the need to go to habeas at all in order to be released from immigration detention, those are things that have been built out under presidential administrations dating back to really the Patriot Act and never rolled back. It's never something that we've really sat with and said, actually, instead of expanding these systems and making them worse for the people who are navigating them, let's try and build something that works. So chipping away at the use of prison labor, chipping away at the lack of rights and this idea that people who are in any form of detention deserve to be in horrific conditions, making sure that that's not allowed in the city, in the state that you live, and hopefully eventually in our country is an important step to making sure not only that this doesn't happen anymore, but that it doesn't happen again down the line when we see other changes in administration, when we see another rise of nationalism or xenophobia. And so, Ria and Masuma, I'm so grateful to y'all for coming on and talking about this. I think it's so important that people hear it. And I just can't thank you enough for your time.
Thank you for having us and, allowing us to share our story.